In the AlUla County of Saudi Arabia, a recent detailed archaeological investigation of standing stone circles was carried out to help form a picture of what the Neolithic lifestyle looked like in this desert landscape and how this related to other regions close by. The work was concentrated on the area called Harrat, Uwayrid, where hundreds of standing stone circles were built as domestic dwellings for nomadic pastoralists from around the 6th millennium BCE onwards. In this video, I discuss this comprehensive research which analyzes the structures themselves as well as a range of artifacts excavated from the sites. Since the 1970s, a number of archaeological surveys have been carried out in the AlUla County of Saudi Arabia and have detailed extensive lithic assemblages on the surface dating to the Neolithic. However, little has been done in the area called Harrat Uwayrid that sits on a volcanic plateau between the Hijaz Mountains and the Nefud Desert. The limited work that had been carried out in this area identified Neolithic stone architecture and lithic scatters. Recent, more detailed investigations, both paleo-environmental and archaeological, have now contributed to a much more comprehensive understanding of the Neolithization of the area and its relationship with other regions at that time. For example, researchers have identified cultic practices that took place at the Mustatil structures, which are unique buildings in the area. They've also found evidence of animal domestication at hearth sites and have discovered rock art which depicts herding by hunters. A new paper in the journal Levant discusses archaeological evidence from domestic structures in Harrat Uwayrid that have been given the term standing stone circles. That name to me is a little misleading because when we think of stone circles, we think of megalithic ritual sites with no evidence of domestic occupation rather than stone houses. However, that doesn't make these structures any less interesting. The investigation of the standing stone circles was carried out by the Aerial Archaeology in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia project and identified occupation layers dating to between the 6th and 5th millennia BCE. Aerial photography, ground surveys and excavations were all carried out as part of the project. Previous studies in northwest Arabia had identified domestic architecture which consists of irregularly shaped enclosures with low rubber walls. They're referred to as stone circles and have been categorized into 3 different typologies: a simple enclosure which comprises a single space, a developed enclosure which contains 2 spaces joined together, and a complex enclosure which is made up of 3 or more spaces. These spaces or cells measure between 2.5 and 35 meters in diameter. The standing stone circles are similar to these, but are made up of upright stone slabs. Rather than being categorized by 3 typologies as with the other domestic architecture in the region, the standing stone circles have only 2, single and multiple. This figure from the paper shows the irregularly shaped honeycomb-style enclosures in images A and B, and the standing stone circles in C and D. The single standing stone circles are small enclosures measuring between 4 and 8 meters in diameter. A single standing stone stands in the center of the structure, and the enclosure wall is also made up of upright megalithic slabs. Smaller stones at their base keep them in position. At least 1 doorway made up of 2 uprights and a threshold stone are positioned in the enclosure wall. Some of these doorways were found to be blocked off by smaller stones, probably because the structures were closed up during times of inactivity. Something similar has been noted at Neolithic pastoral sites in eastern and southern Jordan. Within the enclosures, a flat stone floor which covers only part of the space may have been used as a work surface. This is shown in image D in this figure. The megaliths used in the enclosure wall are unworked stones measuring as long as 1.8 meters and as wide as 0.4 meters, with a maximum weight of 1 ton. Smaller slabs placed on top are thought to have held up a roof, most likely made up of something organic. However, there are a few circles that appear to have partly intact and partly collapsed stone roofs around them. The multi-standing stone circles are large, roughly circular enclosures which measure between 9 and 24 meters in diameter. Their external wall is made up of megalithic upright slabs, just as with the single standing stone circles. However, they then have several other concentric rows of megaliths within them, which are positioned between 0.2 and 2 meters apart. They don't all form full circles, with semicircles also present, as well as S-shaped walls. The standing stone circles are found in clusters, with densities varying in different areas. Overall, 345 standing stone circles have been found in the Harrat Uwayrid, and there are more in the Harrat al-Zabin and the Harrat Khaybar. In the paper, the geology of the region is discussed. Some landscape features suggest that water sources were available to the Neolithic inhabitants of the standing stone circles. The structures themselves have been radiocarbon tested using animal bone and charcoal excavated from them, yielding a date range between the 6th and 5th millennia BCE. Hundreds of kilograms of knapped stone artifacts, largely comprising local basalt, were found at the sites. This image shows a groundstone axe made of basalt. The tools excavated from the standing stone circles are very similar to late Neolithic Levantine technology. However, some tools take forms that are not seen in other Arabian or Levantine Neolithic industries. These include small pressure-flaked plano-convex tools and cone-shaped sandstone objects. Faunal assemblages were mostly made up of small domesticated animals, but there were also wild animals present. Bovine remains were also found, however, an exact species wasn't identifiable. It's likely that they belonged to domestic cattle, since cattle were present at pre-pottery Neolithic bee settlements in the western Jordanian highlands, so this type of animal husbandry likely spread to the AlUla region as well. The dating shows that sheep and goat were introduced in the first half of the 6th millennium BCE, with bovines appearing in the second half of the same millennium. Based on butchery marks and fire traces on bone fragments, as well as the presence of bone in hearth deposits, the authors of the paper conclude that the animals were part of the inhabitants' diet. Ornamental artifacts were also found, such as shell beads, stone rings that were possibly worn as bracelets, and stone objects that may have been pendants. Alongside stone tools, archaeologists discovered a few bone tool examples as well. This new study has helped researchers form an idea of what the lifestyle in northwest Arabia was like during the Neolithic. Although the standing stone circles are not unique, since similar structures are found throughout the Levant, the use of megalithic upright stones is. The evidence for domestic occupation is also a lot more prominent than at other sites where a cultic function has been suggested instead. In the north of Saudi Arabia, upright stones were used for hydraulic and funerary structures in the Neolithic, but not for domestic enclosures. The faunal assemblages and tools excavated from the standing stone circles are evidence for mobile pastoralism. Varying resource availability could be easily adapted to when utilizing a combination of herding and hunting. Certain materials found in the standing stone circles did not come from the immediate surroundings, so suggest a mobile population that also spent time in the valleys beneath the Harrat Uwayrid. Some of the stone tools may have been used to fix the standing stone circles on a seasonal basis when they were in use. Interestingly, archaeologists also found shells originating from the Red Sea and some exotic stone materials which suggest mobility as well as trade. Since studies into the Neolithic environment of the region are limited, it's not possible to be sure exactly what resources were available to mobile communities and when. However, it is known that the environmental conditions in the area improved during the 6th millennium BCE, so may have allowed for more sedentism than transhumance. The size and complexity of the standing stone circle sites, along with the substantial number of artifacts at each one, is also evidence for longer-term occupation. That's it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. A big thank you goes out to my patrons and channel members, and I'll see you next time.